So can we have some kind of systematic listing of some elements of digital reality? And I have produced 6. Firstly, the plenitude of information. There is infinite abundance. Information can create, interpret, mutate, and copy itself already without our interference limitlessly. Currently, the big data is available only to digital mega companies, but open source data comes up pretty fast. And it now remains to be seen which trend is more favorable, either closing of internet in separate parts of the world or open source publishing, open source code writing becoming the future of the world. But even the traditional forms of knowledge and information are changed by this abundance, by this plenitude of information. Firstly, Google Books. It is true, Google Books project has received some kind of a snag. The history stops somewhere around 2007. There are still information coming up, but the last one I could get only about 2013, how many books they have scanned. It is roughly 30 million scanned books. And according to Google's algorithms, there is roughly 130 million books, so roughly 1/4 has been scanned. Of course, there are more and more books coming up to it. But nevertheless, if even Google Book project fails, there definitely will be next one where all the books mankind has ever written will be available, at least potentially available in digital format. I wrote a book about architecture, and I'm talking about Daedalon, which is the magic thing that Daedalus, the allegedly first architect and inventor, was using. And in the old myths, it comes up that Daedalus has killed his niece or uncle, who is called Talos. And that's why he has to leave Athens, and he goes to Crete, where he created other fantastic industrial, magical, and ingenious objects. And my editor told me that, no, this cannot be true, because Talos is in Latin, and you are talking only about Greek. And of course, there was no way to look it up. So I did the Google book search and found out in one of the books, there it was. And I would never have found this old Greek word tilixos instead of talio, roughly means the same thing. So it can be tolic in Gothic language. And here is the 1814 Greek and Latin languages to the Gothic, a kind of etymological science of the words. There would have been no chance I would have found it other than immediately now. The beauty of the Google books, of course, is that the text is optically recognized. So they are not just lines or images which we can read if we understand the language, but they can be checked and they can be found in search engines, and they produce fantastic results when the books are available. The second I looked was the film database. How many films and videos we've got. It is actually 130 million books and 3 million films or documentaries or small pieces between years 1874 and to 2021, which is actually not true, because now I checked, it's already 5.3 million. So film business is going very, very fast. But if we think of the whole history of mankind, and it is only 130 million books and 5.3 million titles today of films and documentaries and TV series. It's very, very small number. So all of it can be digitally available if it is possible legally or otherwise. The images are probably their weakest at the moment, and we don't know how many images there might be in the world. Probably an impossible thing even to calculate, because they are produced more and more every day. But in August 18, in Wikimedia Commons, which uses the copyright that anyone can actually make use of, anyone can in most occasions can use the images, is 48 million, and it is coming up. 2014, you see, it was only 23 million. So in 4 years, it has more than doubled. So it is coming, and this is the first generalization of the digital reality. We have informational abundance. It's not the question if we have information, the question is how we can make use meaningfully of that information. The second, digital platform, I think, has transformed documents, fiction, advertisement, and news into a new unified field, undermining the public broadcasting and printed media. The previous typology of genres disappears or merges. As a start, the public and private divisions in imagination become intertwined. One can witness strong amalgamation of public and private, but then also reality and fiction. And to some extent, we have been looking already Harry Potter and Strauss-Kahn. But my favorite, of course, is History Channel. This morning I took off a screenshot from what History Channel is about. You can see Ozzy Osbourne, some guys there, some odd men in beards and armor pretending to show us what history is about. In the politics, of course, there is the new reality of selfies, and if you are not careful enough, everything is known. You will be found out. And here we can see a married Republican congressman in a future discussion whether he could be the judge or congressman in the future. But in the same screenshot, we somehow have the energy consumption of the world live, and there is the Joker up there. So everything has really become very, very mixed up, and it is impossible to tell, as most people who saw the Trump case believe, what is real and what is not. So the private and public, the fiction and documentary has really merged into one and another. And of course, everyone has seen Sacha Baron Cohen. It's even too embarrassing to look, so I have just looked at some of the episodes, and I just can't look all of it. It is so embarrassing what is happening. So secondly, we see that this amalgamation of public and private, reality and fiction has brought us into the post-public media. We in some cases, we still can believe what the TV, news and broadcasts tell us, but being recently in US, looking at 90 different programs in the hotel television, you can't really have any clue what it is about, what is real and what is not really real anymore. Thirdly, the hybridization within different genres has produced the confusion in evaluating modernist empirical as well as theoretical sciences. Science has lost its credibility. This condition has been recently described as era of post-truth, post-statistics, and also post-facts. Trump, again here, being the apotheosis of alternative facts. Social networks and private messenger applications have taken over the news and information outlets, the public media, thus amplifying the amalgamations in echo chambers, producing perfect conditions for massive public opinion manipulation. Here being one of them. Conundrum by itself. My grandparents didn't come to America all the way from Germany to see it taken over by immigrants. Not on my watch. What are you talking about, man? Guardian, the long read about statistics, showing us that it is virtually impossible to use statistics as a working tool of argument, or as statistics as a working tool of describing the reality. So statistics has this question of what it really means if we look at the numbers. There always has to be someone to interpret it. But even the core of statistics has been undermined. In recent years, a new wave of quantifying and visualization populations has emerged that potentially pushes statistics to the margins, ushering in a different era altogether. Statistics collected and compiled by technical experts are giving away to the data that accumulates by default as a consequence of sweeping digitalization. Traditionally, statisticians have known which questions they wanted to ask regarding which population, then set out to answer them. But by contrast, data is automatically produced whenever we swipe a loyalty card comment on Facebook or search for something on Google, as our cities, cars, homes, and household objects become digitally connected, the amount of data we leave in our trail will grow even greater. This is the new world. Data is captured first, and the research questions come later, as we've seen already in the previous lecture, what happened in Facebook and Cambridge Analytica case. Fourthly, the third industrial revolution, or technological revolution, has advanced the idea of Internet of Things. It is based on the possibility of embedded digital devices and communication between physical objects. This has created a parallel digital universe which gradually stops being parallel. It becomes integrated part of the material being. Thus one can witness strong hybridization of material and digital. And here is the technology roadmap. We are at the moment on the positioning level, but very soon it is believed that the operation, telepresence, ability to monitor and control distant physical objects is becoming the part of the physical world web. So the hybridization of material and digital. 50 trillion gigabytes of data, 25 billion embedded and intelligent systems, and by 2020 the Internet of Things will have achieved its critical mass. 2020, it is 2 years. Linking enormous intelligence in the cloud to billions of mobile devices, having extremely expensive sensors and tags embedded in and on everything. And even today, it was already possible 5 to 10 years ago, you could check where the object was that was tagged. But today we can really see that everything can be tagged to the level of smallest ingredients, to the atoms, electrons, and if we have enough computing power, the objects can be taken apart on the molecular level, and each of these can be described. So the informational reality and the physical reality become really the same here. Fifthly, we have arrived, before we even understood how the image works in this massive imagospheric condition, we've come to the next development level of image. Biocular human vision and awareness of space allows us to sense the surrounding world in a stereoscopic way. This 50 to 70 millimeters of difference between our eyes gives us the full sensation of space that is then built up in our consciousness. And this is called the perspectiva naturalis, as compared to the perspectiva artificialis, an analytical geometrical construct of presence, or something that simulates the spatial qualities on a surface as an image, on a screen as an image. Is not three-dimensional yet. But today, due to the digital possibilities, the difference between natural vision and visible representations on 2D surfaces are gradually disappearing. The digital reality so far was interfaced mostly through screens, but now we see the digital hybrid image production with immersive virtual reality devices, the capacity of massive usage of virtual presence. We are there in the image. These amalgamate together the existential reality and the wildest imagination. Both can be approached in the minute detail through digital simulation. Thus one can witness a strong hybridization of informational and existential. The existential that we have really is, firstly, the vision. Through the vision we exist, and only then come all the other means of understanding existence. Sometimes they are in contradiction, and this contradiction definitely would be one of the elements of the massive virtual reality devices. They are very crude today. They are extremely crude, but even in this crudeness, they are extremely powerful. And the reality that is produced is only a couple of steps away to be intermixed of what we see and what we think we see. It is not without problems. Actually, the VR devices that are on massive market now, both Oculus and HTC Vive, I was expecting them 10 years ago already, but they did not come. The reason being that digital technology was too complex to manage. Already in late 70s and 80s, the first virtual reality devices were designed and were used. And here is one of the pioneers, Jeremy Bailenson, who also has published a book talking about it, where some of the threats I have wrote out for you to be aware of. But the reason that it didn't develop really was the display quality. And it is said that the retina display was the reason you could actually get to that crude but already working virtual reality device. And the second one was then the movement of information, and they still use cables because the difference in milliseconds is extremely important, creating all kinds of problems. So what is the danger of it? For hundreds of thousands of years, this is what Jeremy Bailenson says. For hundreds of thousands of years, when human has moved, three things have happened. First, optic flow changes, so the perspectiva naturalis is in movement. This is a fancy way to say that if you walk closer to a rock, the rock gets bigger in your field of view. Second, your vestibular system reacts. For example, sensitive structures in the inner ear vibrate when you move, sending signals to the brain that you are in motion. And that can be dangerous, because what you see and what you feel with your sense of gravity, if they are in severe contradiction, it can actually not destroy, but shut down this delicate inner air structures, and I've seen one guy taken to hospital for that. So be cautious when you go for it and try it for a short time. And experienced video gamers, of course, they don't need to worry. They are used to the speed there, so that's almost okay. But be careful nevertheless. And then, of course, the skin and muscles information tells your brain where your body is in space. And driving in VR wreaks havoc on these systems. And I must say myself that I tolerate it quite well, except driving. Driving fast on a car, that takes me down. I have to sit for that. Other than that, it is almost fine. But it is still extremely crude. Of course, all kinds of new things happen with this new existentiality. You can go into the VR chat rooms. Still, of course, we are very crude. They are even better than the last time a year ago when I tried it. But very, very soon, of course, the information is there. We can have our own persona, or preferably even somebody else's persona to go into these chat rooms. And that creates totally new existential reality, quite close to our understanding of the world.